The chair.
The current chair, I don't know who the
I
vice
think we
chair
had a
is.
vice.
There was no vice chair.
I nominate Melanie Williams to continue as chair of this committee.
Are there any other nominations? All right, I'll go ahead and close the floor for nominations and ask for a vote for Ms. Williams to be served as the chair of the committee.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Ms.
Thank you.
Williams. You will be serving continuous and chair.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and open the floor then for the nominations for the vice chair. As you don't currently have one, and I don't know why that occurred, but you probably do want to have a vice chair, so I would recommend that you go ahead and at least have a nomination to have somebody serve as your vice chair.
I would like to nominate Mr. Mechanic, if he's willing to do so.
Sure.
Second?
There is no other nominations. I'll go ahead and close the nominations and ask for a vote for Mr. Mechanic as a vice chair.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll just stay.
Stay here? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I'd be this, as long as you're here, I won't have any duties, so.
Thank you for the nomination, Julian, and let's move forward with our approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Do we have public speaking? Anyone wanting to make a public comment today?
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
I would like to thank you all for the safety committee. It means very much to me. My name is Eric Anderson. I'm a union steward for the ATU Local 1530. Today, I would like to share the opportunity I had to go to Tallahassee last week to listen to a proposal for a bill that would put barriers on all buses, and not buses here at HART, but buses across the state of Florida. It would give de-escalation training to all bus drivers and higher penalties to those who assault bus drivers. But it doesn't include all transit workers. It leaves out the paratransit workers and their vehicles, which seem to be forgotten and put aside because we're getting new ones, right? Meanwhile, those vehicles have lackluster AC, windshield wipers, and other issues that go unresolved. Speaking of unresolved, Streetcar Division, to my understanding, has not received de-escalation training yet. Looks like maintenance is not the only division that gets overlooked. And I can tell you, maintenance has the solutions and the employees to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers?
I have a question.
But Commissioner Kemp?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Anderson, when you said about the air conditioning and windshield wipers, were you talking about paratransit? Were you talking about our buses, or what were you referring to?
Sorry, I left so quickly, I apologize.
It's okay.
I was speaking to the paratransit vehicles in context. Paratransit steward has reached out to me and also made a few emails about the complaints about the paratransit vehicles, which we follow up on to do the best we can. It's hard to do with parts, or lack of parts. And the funding is pretty critical as well.
Okay, thank you.
Well, any other questions?
No, but thank you for your information. We have your issues noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Do you know, Ms. Stewart, I thought there was a purchase order in or something for many new paratransit vehicles. Is that accurate?
Yes, there is. Scott, can you speak on that?
Good morning, Deputy Chief of Maintenance and Facilities. Yes, so we have done the scope and the specifications, and we're going to be issuing a PO any day.
And how many vehicles does that involve?
44 in total.
34 new vehicles?
44 total,
44 total, and then how many do we have in the fleet in all?
85.
And so I imagine the newer vehicles will be capped, but have we looked in, I know it's not your job, it's someone's, I guess, about, I don't know if that leaves us, how long it would be, and if that leaves us without air conditioning or windshield issues, if that's, if we can get that addressed, if it's out there.
Yes, we address the problems every single day. No paratransit vehicle will go out with windshield wipers not working or the AC not working.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Committee action item. This will be the approval of third extension of the memorandum of understanding between Hillsborough Transit Authority and Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority for collaboration opportunities. Sylvia
morning.
Birding.
Sylvia Berrien,
Thank
Deputy
you.
Attorney for HART. This is the third extension of the MOU for PSTA, with and HART. Basically, it's just for collaborative opportunities, which we've done in the past. We've added a few more areas and deleted ones that we've already pretty much accomplished. So we ask that you recommend that you, the Safety Operations and Safety Committee review the action item on approving a third extension to the memorandum of understanding between HART and PSTA for collaboration opportunities and advance this item to the full board in March instead of the typo for the regular
I
board of
have a
directors.
question. Madam Chairman, I have a
Yes.
comment.
Mr.
There are two activities that are being deleted, and
Yes.
I was just curious, I know you just said some of these things have been completed, but
Right.
the two that I'm interested in are regional transit planning mobile application
Right.
and joint goal setting and legislative priorities. I would think at least the goal setting and legislative priorities would be an ongoing kind of thing.
With the legislative priorities, we still can talk about those things, but we don't have to necessarily collaborate to advance that. So this is one that the group decided that they would delete out of this one. So it doesn't obligate us or restrict us from doing some additional things, but we don't have to actually put it in the MOU. So, and the risk sharing was also deleted. That's not something that we currently need anymore.
Yeah, I
And-
understand that.
Okay.
How about the mobile app?
That one, they decided that that's not something that they need at this time. We're doing the regional Flamingo, and that's all that we need at this particular
Okay.
time. That's
All right,
sufficient.
thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? Is there a motion?
Second.
Although you have a question, Mr. McLean?
Question.
Yes.
I'll support the motion. I just wondered if we could, in the future, get a brief on the MOU and what we've accomplished with that MOU thus far. It would be nice to see how we've made progress with PSTA.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Right.
All those that say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed.
Thank you.
Okay, the next on the list, we're going right into presentations, and this is the monthly and safety security update. Mr. Malloy?
Thank you, Chair. Colin Malloy, Director of Safety and Security with HART. I'm happy to present the monthly safety and security update. So in terms of the agenda, I will be specifically focusing on January. So I'll be giving a breakdown of the accidents that we had, as well as a breakdown of the verbal and physical altercations, closing up by talking about the action items that we are currently doing or have done, and then I'll be open for any questions that you may have. So looking at the month of January, on this slide, a couple things that we did based on input from the committee and from the board is that not only did we include the percentages, but you also asked us to do a breakdown of the actual number of events. So for January, for this report, I actually did break down the specific number. So you see that in the table to the right on the slide is the actual breakdown of the specific number of accidents on the safety side that we had. In looking at, again, 30% of our accident type of events were those fixed objects or mirror collisions that we've talked about before. One of the things in January that we did see is that there's been an increase of third-party vehicles that have been hitting HART vehicles. That's up to 48%, and as you can see, we had 32 instances where a third-party vehicle actually hit one of the HART buses while we were in operation. Those type of collisions have been primarily the side impacts, the side swipes, also hitting, trying to get around the bus, third-party vehicles not following traffic control devices and or not following any street signs along the routes in Tampa and Hillsborough County. But those represent, again, the largest majority of the type of events that we saw in January were third-party vehicles where truly the operator did everything in their power to avoid something that occurred. We were rear-ended 3 times in the month of January by third-party vehicles. We did, in some cases, HART did hit third-party vehicles in 5 instances, and we did see 1 instance in January where a HART vehicle actually rear-ended a third-party vehicle. And then roughly 5 of them, or a small percentage, were miscellaneous events that occur throughout our system. Maybe contact with a gate or something like that, or something relatively small or miscellaneous. Also, feedback from the committee is we did include the streetcar to give you just a breakdown of the number of streetcar events that we have, and we'll be reporting, these numbers and the breakdowns as per the committee and board's request. In terms of January, we had 2 streetcar events. Both of those were, again, one happened at Channelside and Beneficial, and one happened at Channelside and Boreen. Both of those situations, a motorist did not follow a traffic control device and turned in front of our streetcar. So those were the 2 streetcar events that we had in the month of January. And talking about the physical and verbal altercations, so I'm talking about the month of January here, is that we had no physical altercations throughout the month of January. One of the things that this committee asked us to do was also to include the trespasses. So we did include the number of trespasses that occurred in the month of January. We had 8, and we had 1 arrest via the month of January. In terms of the verbal altercations, we had a total of 20. 14 of those were, again, that offensive language or behavior. We did have 6 that involved threatening language. Of those 6, one of the things that we saw in the month of January, a number of them were people that were intoxicated. That caused a lot of that threatening, not only to our bus operator, to also our passengers. We did see some events also with some service animals where people they brought aggressive service animals or pets onto our buses. As our operator kind of did that interaction, there was some threatening language that was told. So again, in terms of breakdown, we had no physical altercations for the month of January, but we did see about 20 of these verbal altercations that took place. So action items, just to let you know what we're working on, continuing with what we've provided to you guys in the past, but wanted to let you, just robust updates to this committee. Again, the transit worker legislation is moving through on January 4th, went both in front of the Senate Committee on Criminal Justice and the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. It's moving forward. We're continuing to work on it. I was glad to see our local ATU representation speaking on behalf of the bill, so we will keep you guys updated as that legislation moves forward. Again, one of the things that we're working on in terms of our action items is GIS mapping, or providing this committee and the board kind of hotspots where the accidents are happening. So our safety team is getting with the service planning team, and for the board update, the next board quarterly update, we're going to actually provide some GIS mapping and show you kind of more hotspot analysis to give you a better, I think, graphical representation of where some of these events are occurring within our operating system. We conducted, and still are in the process, we started on February 7th, our quarterly safety trainings. So those are going very well. We hit on a number of topics. One of the things I can tell you is on the quarterly safety trainings, it also provides us an opportunity to hear back from the bus operators. So there was a number of discussions of hearing from the operators and some of our employees of things they'd like to see, and we develop additional kind of action items list based on what they mentioned to us. I bring this forward as just that, it's again ongoing communication, talking with our employees. We do these quarterly, so it's, pardon me. it's a two-way street where we're providing some information, but we're also providing those open hearing sessions so we can kind of see what they're feeling out in the street. We have a safety blitz planned for February 28th, which we kind of, I call it like feet on the street or solar poles, but we want to get out there, show this, not only this community, but this organization that safety is a critical element. We will be at transit centers, we will be at maintenance briefings, streetcar briefings, so we're really doing a big push on February 28th to talk about safety and security. One additional item that just came up after on the presentation, to just let you know, is that we did meet and we're going to be rolling out March 3rd with those cross-department route review teams, so the operations, safety, and planning. One of the items we talked about from a previous update is, again, reviewing all these routes with a cross-section of different disciplines, and we scheduled that for March 3rd, and we'll be doing that on a weekly basis. So, again, those are some of the action items. Just to let you know, we're going to be updating you as well as was going on, but I wanted to let you know what we've been working on and what is in the near future as well. Madam Chair, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. McLean.
Hey, Colin, good
Yes, sir.
morning. Thank you. Hey, just a couple questions. Going back to your first pie chart there.
Yes, sir.
The POV strikes HART buses, 32. That you said that's an increase?
Yes,
Okay.
we're seeing, this is only 1 month, so it's not a huge trend yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But we are seeing an increase of, in previous, our largest category was the fixed object collisions. So we're monitoring that right now and working with ops and maintenance, and part of what that route review team is going to look at is how do we mitigate that so it doesn't become a long-term trend. You know, we've got 1 month, but it's on our radar now, sir, that we're going to look at something that, how do we adapt accordingly.
Do we share those totals with law enforcement by chance?
We haven't yet. I can tell you I am meeting with Captain Fernandez actually tomorrow, and I'll be happy to share that information, but that's a good recommendation. We definitely can do that moving forward.
Probably more so if it becomes a trend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. On the streetcar, POV strikes HART, were the streetcars out of commission at all because of the hit?
On these two, I believe they were more light, relative,
Great.
minor damage in terms of, now these are streetcar events that took place in January. So we did have, just for full disclosure, we had a larger event more recently that occurred at Franklin and Channelside, where a motor coach, a tour operator of a motor coach, failed to follow a traffic control device, turned into our bus, or excuse me, our streetcar, and did cause substantial damage. That occurred though in February,
Okay.
but these in January were really more minor.
Okay, thank you.
Director Menchenick.
Yeah, the gentleman from the ATU mentioned that the streetcar operators had not had escalation training. Is that on the schedule or what?
Let me verify that. So what we did is that we had when we did the de-escalation training, we had the quarterlies where all operators, van, bus, and streetcar kind of went through. And then as you may recall, we did a follow-up based on request of the board and this committee in January. So let me go and let me double check, I believe, but let me verify and come back to this committee. If they haven't, we will make sure they have.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. Following up on the streetcar, does the streetcar, every single bus now has a shield, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So does the streetcar?
Or fixed route, every fixed route. So the paratransit fleet and the streetcar, they currently don't make a design for paratransit or for streetcar. The maintenance team and safety, we are working with the manufacturer now on what you can develop, but they currently do not have a model for cutaways or for the MV1s, but we are working with them on what solution they may have.
With paratransit, though, you know every single person that you're picking up, correct?
Yes.
I mean, those are, has there been any of these incidents on paratransit that we've experienced on our regular bus service, like the verbal assaults and?
I can come back with a breakdown for you specific to paratransit. I do think you bring up some interesting points, though, with the van, is that, one, we do know who that person is because they have to reserve the trip. So it's very easy for us to restrict someone if their action is deemed that appropriate to trespass them and restrict them from the system. One of the other unique things that occur is that the the makeup of a van or a paratransit, it has that driver's side door, ma'am, to where if there is an event, the individual is able to easily get out, where if you're on a fixed route bus, you're a little bit more contained. So there
I
are
see.
some unique perspectives that fall into the paratransit side. That being said, we are looking at what solutions we can provide. Scott and his team has been doing a great job, but I'll be happy to get you that breakdown in terms of the paratransit numbers, ma'am.
And I just want to go back to the verbal altercations. There's 14 with offensive language, I can imagine, but 6 involve threatening language, which concerns me more.
Yes, ma'am.
Really, I don't know what it was exactly, but it seems like a lot of it could fall into the category of assault in terms of that. So can you just give me a little bit of information? How do you follow up on threatening language?
So in terms of the threatening language, anytime an operator or employee has something, our initial protocol is to contact police or security to get there as soon as they're able to. And then, depending on when law enforcement gets there, they become the incident commander in terms of whether that person is trespassed, whether they're arrested. That becomes a law enforcement question from Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office or Tampa PD. We do follow up with the operators who've been in those type of situations in terms of, we have the employee assistance program, in terms of working with them and making sure we communicate better with the operator when that event takes place. One of the things that we're doing as well is meeting with law enforcement on a more regular basis. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Captain Fernandez. His area is kind of around the Nebraska 21st, to talk about what we can do more to help mitigate these type of things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schussler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Colin, good information, thank you. I do have one other question, one follow-up issue.
Yes, sir.
You talked about a interdepartmental meeting where you guys are going to get together to discuss things. Are we including the union specifically with this, a union representative? I mean, it seems to me like there might be some additional information that could be gleaned from this, and it might not be a bad idea if it's not to be included, and if it is, then great.
Our intention is we'd like to include both the Teamsters, which are our supervisors, their union, as well as kind of the ATU, if we're able to work through that. But we would definitely appreciate their input. It's extremely, extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Malloy.
Chairman, I'd just like to let this committee know that I did attend a portion of the safety trainings on the February 7th, and it was on a Saturday too also, Colin. We had one on a Saturday also. The updated safety training we do in addition to these, we also do updated quarterly trainings for our employees, and I attended part of that on the 8th, that Saturday.
Thank you. Lena Pennant, you're going to give us a HART performance a HART performance report.
Yes, Madam Chair. Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Madam Chair and members of the Operations and Safety Committee. I'm Lena Pennant. I would like to walk you through a couple of documents that you have at your seats this morning, and they are all related to performance of the organization in fiscal year 2020. One of them is our success plan that was distributed. This is our plan with initiatives, tactics, and projects that would lead to success of the agency overall in 2020, as determined by the departments and staff members. As you remember, we defined success by establishing the mission, vision, and outcomes in strategic areas of focus back in September of last year, and we were working on building and delivering the success plan. And this next step of this process is to deliver quarterly reports to the board on our achievement levels. You will also find in your packets on starting page 31, it's section 6B, the performance report for quarter 1, which consists of a performance scorecard and then a detailed performance report that looks like this, that talks about our achievement level, where are we against the targets, the set targets, and what measures staff would be taking to achieve those targets in the future, in the upcoming quarters throughout the fiscal year. But to take you a little bit back, our mission statement was determined as HART takes people to places that enhance their lives. And vision statement was HART invites, inspires, and implements sustainable and innovative transportation. And we determined that our 4 areas of focus this year would be customer experience, community value, employee success, and financial performance. We also gave a definition of what we would consider a success in those 4 focus areas, which is in customer experience. We would consider success if HART achieves annual increases in customer satisfaction on a comprehensive basis. In community value, we said that HART would achieve annual increases in positive community sentiment around value of HART to Hillsborough County. And employee success, we would see an increase in employee engagement levels. And financial performance, we would see financial performance in the end of the year consistent with the financial plan and actual revenues. To show you a little some of the tactics and success plan, also it has projects and tactics there that fall under these 4 focus areas. And some examples of those tactics are, for example, for customer experience, we are working on regional revenue collection projects. We are analyzing and tracking operations productivity, and transit and transfer center improvement program is being implemented. For community value, we are increasing awards to qualifying disadvantaged, minority-owned and women-owned, veteran-owned and small business enterprises. And we are working on a plan for fleet modernization. Employee success, some of the tactics would be employee engagement level. We are working on enhancing it and increasing and developing a comprehensive professional development programs for employees. We would explore non-traditional revenue sources under financial performance focus, area focus, and implement strategically aligned budget. And so the scorecards represents, it's also split by the areas of focus, and it's data-driven documents that contains the performance goals and actual performance results. In front of you, you will see performance results for the first quarter, which ended in December of 2019. And so overall score for the goal points for performance scorecards would be 100. We are currently at, as you see, 50.2. You will also see in these scorecards, we tried to color code it to show by color where we would need improvements. And the same is about the performance report documents. So you will see that what's the format of this is we are taking the metric from the performance scorecard and we are analyzing it. We are saying where we are at this point, how we were trending, why we think we are trending at this level, and how we can do better if we are trending below a set level. And we have a legend, so color coding also, if red it's below level and green on the level, near target would be yellow, and we have some areas that we will establish baseline this year, we said, and it would be gray for no target. Some of this we would see would be reporting on-time performance on different modes, bus, paratransit, and streetcar, on customer experience, which is safety and security events, as Colin Malloy just reported on. In community value, we identify 6 metrics that we would be reporting on with 25 point weighing. Some of them are community sentiment that we will engage in assessing, in conducting a community sentiment survey this year to understand what customers think of our performance of HART overall, and this thus to build a plan moving forward how we can enhance it or sustain if it's at the high level of the customer satisfaction. We have also DBE goal of achieving higher contract awards to qualifying disadvantaged, minority-owned and women-owned, veteran-owned and small business enterprises. in employee success, we were very successful with engaging employees and offering more opportunities for volunteering. And also many more employees are engaged in wellness program this year. That's why we scored that high. What we did here, not to skew results of the scorecard, we kept these two categories at the target level. So these are the only two categories in the scorecard that will be kept at 5 and 3. Employee engagement, workers' compensation, financial performance. We are looking at cost per trip on different modes also. And it's, as I already mentioned, non-traditional revenue. We're exploring those opportunities. So we will be bringing those reports on a quarterly basis and tracking our progress, our successes, and identifying areas for improvements.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. McLean?
Hey, Lena, thank you, great brief. A couple questions. In looking at your scorecard there, you have a lot of holes in it right now.
We do.
Okay, is this an example, or is this actual scores as of today?
It is actual, yes. So when you see that there is no information inputs on those, most of them you will see in, for example, community value. Right. And those are areas that we will be establishing baseline. We are not we don't have any results in Q1. We may have results in Q4. That's why it's left blank. Okay. Also, there is, I wanted to mention one, thank you so much for asking this question, on the DBE also, we measure those on, it's biannually, so in Q1, we just didn't have a number yet. We're going to input it in Q2, you will see that our progress there.
And what was the end of Q1?
October to December.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes. This is really interesting. Also, community value, the same thing I'd like to, first, how did you establish and where, I mean, I guess actually there's a lot of information to be had there because transit access, what would that mean? Is that ridership?
Our planning, Chris, on the transit access, we have identified
Okay, so we have identified several different measures within the transit access metric, including a percentage of daily and peak period trips or start or end within a quarter mile of a actual transit stop. And then a percentage of the population and employment that we capture within 0.4 of a mile of a public transit stop. So what we can do within geographic information systems is we can map all of the stops in our inventory, and then we will generate radii from every single transit stop and calculate the population and employment that radius captures. And then we also calculate the number of households within 5 miles of park and ride lots and major transit centers that is, and these were recommended measures to define these specific metrics that we we sat down as and developed as a consensus with all departments as well as the consultant as we developed this. So,
Who is the consultant?
Transpo, right? Yep.
Because I know a metric that's used often by Jarrett Walker and that I've seen all over is, by the way, Miami and New York is now using Jarrett Walker's analysis too, is where a person can get in 45 minutes from a spot. Is that anywhere included in this? Because I think it should be. I think it's a really good metric.
It's not, and you know, there are tools out there that we may be able to look at if this is a direction that the board would like to go, that we can simply I believe Remix, which is a software platform that we have, may allow us to do that. I can look into that further and bring back some further information for you on that, so.
I also, and to me, one of the biggest metrics would be ridership. How many people can actually use the system or do? And I would really like to see that emphasized in whatever. I just think the number of people is important. And finally, right down here, operating costs for a trip, you have $6 as an actual or as a performance goal. $722 in the first quarter. But what I think is really important is for this board and others to see, and I've asked for this before, I'd really like it to be put on the monthly ridership reports, is cost per trip per route, so that we understand, because the express bus routes are far more expensive than like Florida Avenue, I know, is $250. I just asked the other day, $250 per person per trip. Whereas a lot of the express bus routes can go up to $15 and $20 per person per trip. So I think that that's important information for us to have as we look at the future of the system.
We will put them on reports. We'll put it on reports for you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. Okay, the next is Ron Joel. Hopefully I said that correctly. Streetcar tie replacement project. Thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm the project manager assigned to this project, and I'm going to give you a quick update, a little history behind it, and then go where we're at right now, the progress that we've done throughout this project, and then what we look to in the future. It was noted, and I'm sure through this committee and others, and through the triennial safety review, that the status of our ties on our streetcar line were in dire need of repair. As you can see through these pictures, most of the track was fouled heavily with stormwater sediment. A lot of the ties showed massive decay and rot, and many of them had never been touched. Almost the majority of them had not been touched since they were installed. So this project is a 3-year project that was approved by the board for us to, over the next 3 years, do a replacement project for all the ties within the streetcar line. So here's a history and a timeline. And I put this up here specifically to note how long the process takes from the time that the board approves a project to the time that it actually goes into construction. And a lot of that is caused by the permitting in the city, and there's really not a lot of ways we can get around that, so I just wanted to have that out there for you to see when the work began, and then we phased the work out. We addressed the most damaged areas of track that needed the most attention first, and we addressed those immediately. We have future plans, future timelines later on this year to fix some more, but the process is going to take a long time. There's over almost 1,600 ties that need to be replaced. So to date, these are the areas of the track that we have completed. If you're familiar with the streetcar line. 5th Avenue switch right out back behind the streetcar barn, the track between 5th and 6th Avenue, section track between Adamo and Harbor Street, and then we broke down the passing lanes. There's some long passing lanes between McKay down to York Street. So we did the east side first, and now we're working on the west side, and we did some pre-selected ties that were around the barn that were pretty quick and easy during the holidays, because we wanted to keep the streetcar line open as much as we possibly could. So this is the parts of the track that have not been worked on yet, and these are the areas that we need to break into other phases. There are some complexities with some of these, so we have to actually sit down as a group and think about them, from streetcar operations and bus operations, and decide which areas need to be addressed the most. Basically, prioritize these sections of track and then schedule them out for the rest of the year. And it's because some of them involve CSX. There's an interchange, the the interlock between CSX and HART streetcar line, that requires a lot of moving parts, a lot of coordination with CSX. So it's just one of the examples of the complexity. A lot of the switches require a lot of complexity as well. And you'll see in the photos, I've got some photos for before, during, and after coming up. So this is the total number of streetcar ties that need to be replaced. And as of the end of this month, at the end of phase 1, we'll have replaced 915 approximately. It's pretty close to that.
Good.
And again, we addressed the areas that most needed the attention first, and they've already all been addressed. So this project has been extremely successful so far, and it wouldn't be due to the combined efforts of bus ops from running a bus bridge, marketing and community engagement, streetcar ops and maintenance, and the project management team. We have tried to keep the operating hours of the streetcar up in the evenings and on the weekends, which added another layer of complexity to this project. We've had motormen and women supervisors, community outreach personnel. They were there to ensure that people knew when they stepped off the streetcar and they wanted to get to the bus bridge, how to get where they need to go, and then likewise on the other end. So that made it much more successful from a community, from the community user perspective. And I also like to point out that during the first quarter of this project, we still carried about 250,000 passengers. So even though the maintenance was going on, the streetcar line was under maintenance. So here's some before, during, and after pictures. You can see all the ballast, which is the rock that's underneath the ties, is completely compacted with stormwater sediment. The ties are also immersed constantly in a damp environment, which causes them to rot. And also note that it's a very confined space that the ties are in, because when the streetcar line was built, it was built in a concrete tub style format. So the ties are literally, there's very little distance for them to be moved side to side. They actually have to cut the rail, as you can see here in the picture, and then remove the ties, replace them, re-weld the ties, re-weld the rail, I'm sorry. And then that's the after picture. It came out very well. It's just right here if you want to take a look. This is down right after Adamo, south of Adamo, north of Harbor. And you can see again how the ties are completely compacted and there's no drainage there. The water now sits on top of that. So it was an area that needed to be addressed. All brand new streetcar ties are there. The rail has been cut, and they're getting ready to weld it, which I have pictures of as well. And this section is down south of York Street Station. And then just a couple of pictures of some welds. It's a thermite weld, which is they put in a little crucible. They fire off a magnesium-style chemical mix, and it pours liquid steel into the cut. So, and then it's ground away and tested to make sure it's complete. And that is my presentation, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? Thank you so much for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Item number 7 says information item ATU negotiations. Are they included in this packet?
Yeah, it's just a statement that the union did pass the proposed contract, and we will bring it to the full board at the March meeting.
Thank you. Is there any other business? Thank you. We will adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Have a good day.